This is the spot where Kim Jong-nam was attacked.
Kim Jong-un has executed potential rivals in the past, and 6 months before he died, his estranged half-brother told friends his life was in danger. A woman who had been facing a possible death sentence will now be freed next month. 4 North Koreans wanted over the murder are still on the run.
Airport security monitors flicker to life, gray and grainy. A pudgy man in a gray jacket, passport name Kim Chol, real name Kim Jong-nam, scrolls the departures board for his 10:50 a.m. flight to Macau. At 9 a.m. sharp, 2 strangers intersect his orbit. One woman blocks his path with a playful wave. The other darts from behind, yanks his head back, and smothers a damp cloth on his face. She's gone before the scream even reaches his lungs. 45 minutes later, Kim Jong-nam is found dead, poisoned by the deadly VX nerve agent, the most vicious chemical weapon you can use on the battlefield.
If you want to kill somebody, that's the best way to get the job done.
The half-brother of North Korea's supreme leader, Kim Jong-un, has just been erased in front of 6 CCTV cameras and thousands of oblivious travelers. But who was ultimately held responsible? We'll uncover the mysteries behind this real-life spy thriller and learn what you can do to spot an assassin hidden in plain sight. What single clue convinced detectives that North Korea was behind the hit? How did the 2 women handle a deadly chemical and walk away alive? And what Kim family blood was spilled before and after this attack? Seatbelts on, we're driving straight into one of the boldest assassinations of the 21st century. Kuala Lumpur after dark. Bar girls in neon. Hawker stalls sizzling. Cell phone screens glowing. Here, 25-year-old Siti Aisyah drifts between odd jobs. Nanny, masseuse, sometimes hostess, wiring tips home to a village in rural Indonesia. On Friday, after finishing her shift as a part-time masseuse at a spa, Siti is approached by a stranger who calls himself James. With a neatly pressed shirt, cracking jokes, and speaking the Bahasa language fluently, he seems like a charming businessman. He shows Siti prank videos on his phone. Strangers smeared with baby oil, everyone laughing, no one hurt.
Saya kenal James tuh orangnya kayak lucu juga kan. James,
real name Rijiu, a North Korean operative with a string of fake passports, spots easy marks. He pays Siti $90 to smear baby oil on a stranger in a mall under the guise of a prank TV show. 10 pranks later, she's still giggling at the footage.
Tuh lucu-lucuan gimana ya, terkenal kayak boom prank. Jadi saya juga mikirnya, oh ya udahlah gitu.
About 500 miles north in Hanoi, Don Thi Huang, 28, waits tables and edits TikToks hoping for stardom. She once tried out for Vietnam Idol and even made it to the 2nd round. In her police statement, Don said Mr. Y approached her and asked how much she wanted for a month's work and promised to fly her abroad to shoot funny videos. She heard destiny knocking. Within weeks, both women are seasoned in the routine. Walk up, wipe liquid, sprint. Easy money. Court documents reveal the pair performed at least 10 practice pranks in malls between January 1st and February 10th, 2017. Police records also show Siti and Don each booked independent flights into and around Malaysia in January and February 2017, never sharing the same reservation until they briefly met at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport on February 13th. To fully understand the bullseye painted on Kim Jong-nam, we need to rewind. In 1971, Kim Jong-il's favorite mistress gave birth to his firstborn son, Kim Jong-nam. Once hailed as the Kim dynasty's golden boy, he spent his formative years at the International School of Bern in Switzerland. There, he indulged in Western pastimes like video games and restaurant outings, even as a detail of bodyguards trailed him everywhere, addressing the teen as young general. His time abroad convinced him North Korea needed an economic overhaul. According to The Guardian, Kim Jong-nam spent the 1990s quietly drafting letters and meeting dissidents to promote a Chinese-style market socialism, arguing that limited private enterprise and foreign investment could end the famine that was isolating his nation. But all of that promise came to a screeching halt in 2001, when he was detained at Narita Airport while trying to sneak into Japan to visit Tokyo Disneyland. Police found he had a forged Dominican passport using a Chinese name. Overnight, he became a global punchline, a deep embarrassment for the dynasty, and was effectively struck from the line of succession. He retreated to casinos in Macau, shuttling between Beijing and Singapore under the name Kim Chol. In rare emails to Japanese journalist Yoji Gomi, he confessed, "I personally oppose dynastic succession. In other words, I'm alive, I'm an heir, and I don't want the job." For Kim Jong-un, that's treason served cold. In 2012, South Korean intelligence picked up chatter that Kim Jong-un had already issued a standing order to kill his outspoken half-brother.
There are several times of the assassination plot against Kim Jong-nam, even in China or other countries.
Living in a constant fear of his family's safety, Kim Jong-nam wrote a private letter to his half-brother, begging him to spare him.
It's not easy to imagine the brother kill his another brother, That's why Kim Jong-nam appealed to his brother from the perspective of human beings.
For Kim Jong-un, this letter was the last straw. Kim Jong-nam's fate was sealed. One South Korean intelligence official later said Kim Jong-un feared his half-brother might defect to the United States or South Korea and ordered that Kim Jong-nam be assassinated before he sought asylum overseas.
According to the Kim Jong-un or North Korean regime, Kim Jong-nam was a kind of, physical hurdle which should be eliminated sooner or later.
But all this was kept hush-hush. In the eyes of the North Korean embassy, CCTV and Endorse were responsible for the heinous crime of murdering Kim Jong-nam. It's February 9th, 2017. 4 North Korean men fly into Malaysia using tourist visas. They study the airport terminals, CCTV camera angles, and sip lattes at a cafe to blend in with the crowd. Meanwhile, CCTV and Endorse get ready for their next act.
Dan sering gitu melakukan prank dan pakai baby oil gitu. Jadi saya rasa ya seperti biasa aja gitu.
Malaysian investigators later revealed CCTV footage of 2 of the men closely guiding the 2 women inside an airport cafe, timing every move.
Terus pas hari hanya kan, nanti kalau misalnya kamu acting yang ini ya katanya bagus ini nanti.
February 13th, 8:59 a.m., Kim Jong-nam prints his boarding pass at an airport self-check-in kiosk. He's carrying $120,000 in bricks of cash and a pocket full of atropine vials, a poison antidote he's hauled around for years in case of an assassination attempt. Back in the cafe, one of the handlers quickly redirects CCTV's focus to her next prank target.
Saya udah bilang itu orangnya gitu. Pas tuh saya bilang yang mana gitu kan. Itu yang pakai jaket warna abu-abu katanya gitu kan. Yang mana? Itu yang botak bilang kan. Kasih ya gitu saya ke tangan saya gitu.
At 9 a.m., Doan strolls up right in front of him and stops him in his path. That's when CCTV sweeps in from behind him and presses a cloth to his face for 3 full seconds. Enough time for the toxic nerve agent to be inhaled.
Kayak mengamuk gitu, habis ngamuk saya juga grogi. Cepat mungkin kan meninggalkan juga, ya udah aku juga buru-buru.
At 9:03 a.m., Jong-nam staggers to the information desk. Gasping for air, he mutters, "Someone wiped liquid on my face." His vision blurs and he begins to sweat. He stumbles his way to the airport clinic around 9:18 a.m. At this point, he experiences muscle spasms. As you can see in the footage, a man in a black suit with a rolling briefcase walks by and looks over. It's one of the 4 North Korean tourists we mentioned earlier, confirming if the deed has been done.
He's checking in to make sure that Kim Jong-nam is receiving medical treatment. This is one of the operatives. It's a very elaborate operation. It's very old school.
Malaysian nurses have no idea they're treating a VX victim. We spoke with Dr. Cindy Vestergaard. She's the project lead of Converging Technology and Global Security at the Stimson Center, with expertise in weapons of mass destruction, non-proliferation, arms control, and disarmament.
First, you'd have to be able to recognize it very quickly, and that's not necessarily going to be the case, right? Because just because you have pinpointed pupils to start off with And also, again, it depends on the dosage, right? So if you're coming in, but it's a very high dose, you're going to have very immediate effects. So if you're starting to feel nauseous, you're vomiting, you have no control of your bowels, your bladder, you start to have seizures. If you're the victim of a VX or nerve agent attack, there's not a lot of options. I mean, an antidote, of course, atropine, there's another one as well. There's basically 2 known antidotes for it. So you would have to inject that pretty quickly.
At 9:40 a.m., Kim Jong-nam suffers cardiac arrest. Just 5 minutes later, the 45-year-old half-brother of the supreme leader is pronounced dead. Exactly 45 excruciating minutes from the time of his exposure to the chemical.
You make one big splash and that's enough to, and of course they hit their target. And they did it with, I wouldn't say a bang, but they did it certainly with pizzazz.
So we begin with breaking news. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's half-brother has been killed.
While airport monitors flashed medical emergency, the 4 North Korean undercover operatives calmly make their way to immigration, board flights via Jakarta and Dubai, and vanish into Pyongyang's smog 2 days later. Interpol issues red notices for law enforcement agencies worldwide to be on the lookout for the suspects. But North Korea doesn't extradite its heroes. The attending nurse later told the court she ran an on-the-spot enzyme test after Kim Jong-nam was wheeled in from the airport clinic. The screen showed dangerously low cholinesterase levels, an immediate red flag for exposure to a VX-like nerve agent.
So nerve agents are a class of chemicals, whether they be synthetic or organic. They have one purpose, which is to kill. And they do exactly as the name suggests. They attack the nervous system, specifically an enzyme that helps our synapses function and talk together. So they essentially break that down, which means that if you're not able to do that, it actually builds up so much so that you eventually end up in paralysis and have a cardiac arrest and die.
The VX nerve agent was accidentally synthesized in 1952 at the UK's Imperial Chemical Industries, when chemists Ranajit Ghosh and J.F. Newman were seeking a new pesticide. A droplet no bigger than a pinhead can cause pulmonary edema, where the lungs flood with plasma leaking from tiny blood vessels and paralyze the respiratory muscles within minutes. Just 10 milligrams can kill a 200-pound adult in 10 minutes. North Korea, which is one of only a few countries that is not part of the Chemical Weapons Convention, is estimated to have stockpiled around 2,500 to 5,000 tons of weaponized agents. These include mustard, sarin, and especially VX nerve agents, giving it the world's largest per capita cache of chemical weapons.
They are what is believed to be the largest chemical weapons inventory at the moment. It's really hard to pinpoint the actual amount of inventory that North Korea has, but we can assume a lot of the choking agents, so phosgene, for example, mustard gas, things like that, and then of course the nerve agents, because one of the ways to particularly to confirm to the global community what you have is to do something like this. So how do the assassins live? Scientists have uncovered that each woman carried separate chemicals. One oily precursor known as Agent QL, a phosphorothioate ester, the other a watery precursor, a dilute sulfuric acid solution, each harmless on its own. First, CT swept her bare hands coated with the oily agent across his eyes. Seconds later, Doan slapped on the damp cloth containing the watery agent so the two liquids forged together right on Jong-nam's skin. Essentially, it's a binary. So one precursor, one chemical was swiped across, and then another chemical with the two women who came at different times very quickly after each other. And then the chemicals mix to create this very lethal VX. Immediately following the attack, both women sprinted to the restroom and scrubbed their hands clean. Little did they know, they had just formed one of the deadliest chemical weapons in the world. The biggest surprise was really that, particularly the woman who put on the second precursor, that she survived.
I mean, it'll take a little bit of time to become VX, so if she goes rushing to the toilet and wash it away, maybe, that's the way how she survived. In just seconds, that smear unleashed the same brutal efficiency and precise ruthlessness this regime uses to eliminate its enemies.
Different governments will say what you can do when you're a victim of a chemical weapons, specifically a nerve agent attack. If there's a contact, wash that off. Never take your clothes off over your head because it will spread. You need to rip it open or cut it open. You want to make sure that the contaminant is as less as possible. I think in the case of Kim Jong-nam, though, I don't think there's much else he could have done.
In North Korea, membership of the royal family is no guarantee of a long or happy life.
Kim Jong-un's palace playbook is Godfather meets Game of Thrones. In 2013, Kim Jong-un's uncle, Jang Song-taek, was dragged from a Politburo meeting and shot with anti-aircraft guns in public for anti-party, counter-revolutionary factional acts. In 2014, his children and grandchildren were erased to remove the seed of treason. And then in 2015, Defense Minister Hyun Yong-chol was publicly executed for napping during a military rally attended by Kim Jong-un, again with anti-aircraft guns. But that's not the only blood on the Kim family's hands. A Seoul-based non-governmental organization has counted 421 senior North Korean political figures who have been purged or shot between 2012 and 2019.
Why he killed? You don't know? Because his power is not stable. All the people, he cannot trust the people, right?
Chinese analysts interviewed by the BBC noted that Beijing had long viewed Kim Jong-nam as a potential successor and that his murder removed a key leverage point China once held over Pyongyang. But for Sidi and Don, they were now charged for a far greater crime than a simple prank.
Polisi juga nanya-nanya apa yang kamu lakukan di airport itu. Terus polisi itu tiba-tiba bangun, kamu tahu nggak apa yang kamu lakuin katanya. Kamu itu terlibat pembunuhan oleh adiknya presiden.
Her arrest didn't wrap up a murder case. Instead, it lit the fuse for a full-blown showdown between Malaysia and North Korea, setting the stage for a diplomatic crisis. And if you want to uncover more real-life spy thrillers, be sure to like and subscribe to How to Survive. Malaysia's cops build a case fast. 48 hours after the hit, they arrest Sidi and Don, both still believing they're reality TV extras. They appear in court wearing bulletproof vests shackled at the wrists.
She has been charged for the most serious crime in the country, the crime of murder. For the offense of murder, there's only one punishment, and that is death.
Malaysian police investigators point the finger squarely at North Korea. In return, Choi Kang-chol, North Korea's ambassador to Malaysia, fired back by accusing them of siding with hostile forces.
This incident also sparking a diplomatic rift, with Malaysia recalling its ambassador to Pyongyang.
Kuala Lumpur expels him, while North Korea retaliates by locking 9 Malaysian diplomats inside its borders. It's hostage diplomacy, 21st century edition. Trade evaporates overnight. Malaysia cancels visa-free travel for North Koreans, and tourism offices shutter. In a deal struck weeks later, Malaysia returns Kim Jong-nam's body and allows 3 North Korean suspects sheltering in the embassy to fly home. In exchange, North Korea frees the 9 Malaysian diplomats. Kuala Lumpur reopened its airspace, but never its trust. In March 2021, Malaysia extradited a North Korean diplomat to the US on sanctions evasion charges. North Korea erupted in fury, severing relations at once. In response, Malaysia recalled its envoys, locked the gates of the North Korean embassy, and walked away from ties that had lasted decades. Meanwhile, in the Kim Jong-nam case, the courtroom saga drags on. Prosecution lacks its North Korean masterminds. The defense claims the women are patsies. Both women are charged with murder under Section 302 of the Malaysian Penal Code, a crime that carries a mandatory death sentence. Indonesia pushes for Sidi's release, and in March 2019, after 2 years behind bars, her murder charges are unexpectedly dropped. Don pleads to causing hurt with a dangerous weapon, and finally goes home that May. 0 North Koreans ever see a courtroom. In 2019, a bombshell article was dropped by the Wall Street Journal reporting that Kim Jong-nam had met with CIA handlers just days before his death. He was allegedly paid to reveal any plans or gossip from the regime. Nothing classified, but enough to anger his little brother. Malaysian police really did find those atropine vials and $120,000 in cash in his backpack. Perfect spy novel props. US officials say Kim Jong-nam's last known meeting with an American agent occurred less than 48 hours before he died. Poison is a dictator's favorite weapon. Silent, deniable, and devastating once the symptoms kick in.
Poisoning has been around since the beginning of time, right? I mean, whether it's arsenic poisoning or putting something in someone's drink, doesn't matter whether you're trying to kill a king, a brother. This is something that is, goes back way, in time.
London 2006. Ex-KGB agent Alexander Litvinenko sipped tea laced with radioactive polonium-210 and died an agonizing death. Fast forward to Salisbury, England 2018. Sergei Skripal and his daughter touched a front door handle smeared with the Soviet-era nerve agent Novichok, but lived. A passerby later dies after picking up the discarded perfume bottle that carried the toxin. Jump to Siberia 2020. Opposition leader Alexei Navalny collapsed mid-flight because someone dosed his underwear with the same nerve agent. He lived only because the pilot made an emergency landing and paramedics pumped him full of atropine. So, what can the rest of us learn from these grim case studies? First, if someone offers you a quick TV gig without a real contract, walk away. Legitimate shoots come with paperwork. Second, vet whoever's paying. If the money arrives only in cash and encrypted texts, that's a red flag the size of Moscow's Red Square. Third, know the danger signs of nerve agents. Pinpoint pupils, facial twitches, and sudden torrents of sweat. If you see them, call for help and ask specifically for atropine.
First thing, of course, as all the governments say, seek medical attention. So hopefully there's a hospital or a doctor nearby, or a nurse, or someone or maybe you have atropine at home. Wash any kind of affected area. Get the whole body cleansed. There's a reason why people take showers, whether it be radiation or bio or chem. And again, thing with the clothes, do not pull it over your head. Rip it off, cut it. And if you're ripping it off, again, try to make sure that you're keeping it contained. And then after that, you won't survive.
And finally, if a dictator is your enemy, keep your routines unpredictable. Kim Jong-nam moved around Macau like clockwork, alone and unprotected. That made the assassin's job a whole lot easier. Kim Jong-nam's death was more than a family feud. It was a chemical weapon postcard from the world's most secretive state. A sovereign airport became a crime scene. Two naive performers became patsies. An entire nation's paranoia splashed onto global headlines. VX on a boarding pass kiosk told 8 billion people exactly how far North Korea will go to keep one family in power. And it worked. The half-brother is gone, power in North Korea is tighter than ever, and the masterminds are back under the palace chandeliers. It's all a strong reminder to the world that North Korea's playbook still values fear over diplomacy. Next time, we jump into the stranger-than-fiction saga of North Korean defector Timothy Cho, a man who gambled everything to expose the brutal gulags and political detainment camps hidden beyond the demilitarized zone. Meanwhile, stay safe, stay informed, and keep watching How to Survive.